The North African desert was a brutal sea of sand where victory demanded speed, supplies, and cunning. In 1941, the British and Commonwealth forces should have dominated. They had a massive advantage in the one weapon that mattered most, the tank. Yet, they were repeatedly beaten by the smaller, undersupplied German Afrika Korps. The reason boils down to the genius of its commander Erwin Rommel. A master of desert warfare, Rommel didn't just fight harder, he fought smarter. Faced with superior numbers, he developed a lethal battlefield illusion that turned the great British strength into a fatal weakness. This deceptively simple trick earned him the name the Desert Fox and turned the desert into a graveyard for Allied tanks. This is the story of the Desert Shuffle. How did the outnumbered Rommel not just hold his ground but annihilate entire Allied tank columns? The answer is a mix of deception, psychology, and a revolutionary use of combined arms. He didn't invent a superweapon. He invented a new way to kill. He lured his overconfident enemies into a perfect trap, turning the hunter into the hunted and the desert into a killing ground. To understand Rommel's genius, you have to understand his problem. The British 8th Army had a lot of tanks. Their strategy involved two main types. First was the infantry tank Mark II, the Matilda, a mobile fortress whose thick armor was almost immune to early German anti-tank guns. Backing them up were faster cruiser tanks like the Crusader designed to swarm the enemy. British doctrine based on old cavalry tactics sent these tanks charging ahead as independent tank fleets, with poor coordination with their own infantry or artillery. They believed sheer numbers in tank-on-tank combat would win the day, but this had a huge blind spot. Their 2-pounder main gun was excellent against other tanks, but couldn't fire effective high-explosive shells. This made them vulnerable to towed anti-tank guns. This poor communication and lack of combined arms created a fatal gap in their teamwork, a gap Rommel would exploit with precision. Rommel knew he couldn't win a tank versus tank slugfest, so he changed the game. The job of his precious panzers wasn't head-to-head fighting, but to act as bait and deliver the final blow. His Panzer IIIs and 4S were outmatched in a direct fight, so instead of a battering ram, he used them as a matador's cape, a tempting target to draw the enemy in. The real star of the show was the legendary 8.8 centimeters Flak gun, the 88. Originally an anti-aircraft gun, its high muzzle velocity and flat trajectory made it a terrifying tank killer. The 88 could punch through a Matilda's thick armor from over a kilometer away, far beyond the range of British tank guns. Dug in and hidden by desert heat, a battery of 88s was an invisible, lethal hammer ready to smash the British armored charges. The tactic was a deadly 4-step dance. First, the setup. Under the cover of darkness or sandstorms, Rommel would create a pack front, an anti-tank screen combining long-range 88s with smaller 50mm guns. These were dug in and camouflaged, creating an invisible wall of interlocking fire. Second, the lure. With the trap set, Rommel sent his panzers forward to engage the British. After a brief skirmish, the panzers would suddenly turn and retreat. To the British commanders, it looked like the Germans were breaking, a victory just a short chase away. Third, the trap. The British almost always took the bait. Driven by their cavalry charge mentality, their tank regiments surged forward in pursuit, leaving their infantry and artillery miles behind. They raced, isolated and overconfident, directly into the kill zone of the hidden guns. As they crossed an invisible line, the panzers would swerve aside. Fourth, the annihilation. The hidden guns opened fire. The 88s tore through British armor from extreme range. Invincible tanks were now helpless, brewed up by an enemy they couldn't see. As chaos took hold, Rommel's panzers slammed back into the disorganized British flank, mopping up survivors. The shuffle was complete. This tactic's brutal effectiveness was proven during Operation Battleaxe in June 1941, a mission to relieve Tobruk. Near Fort Capuzzo, British Matilda tanks pushed forward, far ahead of their support. Rommel sent his panzers to engage them, who then faked a retreat. The British tank regiment charged forward in pursuit, leaving support behind and plunging right into a hidden line of anti-tank guns. Suddenly, the 88s opened fire. Within minutes, the charge collapsed, with tank after tank knocked out. An identical scene played out at Hafid Ridge. British tanks were lured in by retreating panzers and ran headfirst into a wall of hidden guns. British crews watched helplessly as German gunners picked them apart from over a mile away. Operation Battleaxe was a disaster for the British, who lost nearly 100 tanks. The trap hadn't just stopped an offensive, It had cemented a legend. The Desert Shuffle was a masterpiece of psychology. Rommel understood his enemy's aggressive nature and poor combined arms teamwork. He used their overconfidence and eagerness for a tank showdown to destroy them. The tactic played perfectly to his army's strengths, the long-range punch of the 88S and the speed of his panzers, while exploiting British weakness. It forced the British Eighth Army on a painful journey toward better teamwork, proving that how you use your weapons together is more important than how many you have. The legend of the Desert Fox was built on many victories, but this lethal shuffle best captures his genius, a timeless lesson in how a sharp mind can defeat brute force. Just a couple notes worth mentioning. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel would pick up wounded Allied soldiers and give them the same care in the same medical tents as his soldiers received. German officers would read captured manuals and even one code book captured during the many desert battles. Rommel was also known to grab a rifle and fight right on the front lines with his troops. British soldiers once saw Rommel's command panzer going so fast that it literally caught air. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe and ring the bell for more deep dives into the strategies that shaped history. Let us know in the comments what military general you want to see covered next. Thanks for watching.